Good evening. I am the one to thank you, Soania Raphael. I really mean it, because when you invited me, I already had this curiosity for the M+ project, which is well known and which we have been followed from Paris and from Abu Dhabi for a long time. So I was very curious and excited. And I want to thank you, and I want to thank your team. We had a fantastic visit this morning, and I can just tell you, you have a great team and you have a great museum to come. So I'm very impressed by what you're doing in Hong Kong, and this is something you can collectively be proud of. I will try in less than an hour to give you a feeling, a perception of what Louvre Abu Dhabi means. Some images maybe to put to be in the context.
Civilizations and Louvre Abu Dhabi is the spirit of the city. You can walk into this place having never traveled before and become exposed to all these different civilizations and cultures all under one dome.
Try to see?
Just a jewel. You meet all the elements.
No, it's okay. Let it fall. Let it fall. Let it fall. Let it fall. Okay. Adaptation is the life of museums. You have some images. I will do the text.
Louvre Abu Dhabi is the spirit of the city. You can walk into this place having never traveled before.
No. Sorry.
Louvre Abu Dhabi is the spirit of the city. You can walk into this place having never traveled before and become exposed to all these different civilizations and cultures all under one dome.
This museum is just a jewel. You meet all the elements. Light, wind, the water surround you. It's just like a dense ballet of the light all day long.
It's almost like you're walking under palm tree leaves. It's incredible. It's phenomenal. It's John Nouvel's legacy. I like to stand still sometimes and actually see all the different people from all over the world just passing by. But everyone in essence coming for one reason, and it's to enjoy Louvre Abu Dhabi, to enjoy different artworks from different places all side by side. We're here to tell the story of mankind. You know what? You can say, I've been there.
After several moments of starting, which is also the story of the project, and I guess you know what it means when you manage to carry out this kind of supersized project. Maybe a first thing to share with you, the painter Paul Cézanne wrote in a wonderful letter to his friend, the painter Émile Bernard, in 1905, "The Louvre is a book in which we learn how to read." And I hope that with the Louvre Abu Dhabi, we have written another chapter to this book, and this is also an experience we're very willing to share with our colleagues, and with humility, because we made plenty of mistakes, plenty of things to learn, plenty of things also successful. We are a new museum. We are, as you said, 1 year old. We opened in November last year, but I think that we are rooted as a museum, as an identity, in a very long tradition of museums, which comes with the first part of our name, Louvre Abu Dhabi. Louvre is, as you see, in this tradition of universal museums or encyclopedic museums. These museums, which were born mainly in the West, 18th century, 19th century, with a temptation to, let's say, invite the world to discover the world, nurtured by curiosity, by the Enlightenment, by the idea of inviting the world. And the definition of universal was growing with techniques knowledge, but this is these museums which are talking to the world and showing artworks from all over the world. The other part of the name is, I don't know if you see, if it's clear to see, Abu Dhabi. Not everybody knows exactly the city of Abu Dhabi. I think Louvre Abu Dhabi has participated into strengthening this very vibrant destination. But Abu Dhabi is the capital of the UAE, the United Arab Emirates. Abu Dhabi, which is a federation of 7 emirates. So Abu Dhabi is at the same time the capital of the emirate and the most important emirate of the 7. Abu Dhabi is this place in which we have not only Louvre Abu Dhabi, but we have a full development of a cultural district. You can see on the right, which is an integrated, and this is why I was very impressed to see the surroundings of M+ and what it means to this kind of supersized museum are not standalone. They also have a place in an environment. And within Abu Dhabi plan, which is an urbanistic development of the city, we have one of the island called Saadiyat Island, the island of happiness, which is being developed on one of the corners of this island, which is a real island. Also, some of the questions I really get. It's a real island which has been transformed and adapted, but it's not a creation. It's an island which was part of the archipelago of Abu Dhabi. This island, we have the Saadiyat Cultural District, in which we can recognize the Louvre Abu Dhabi, but also the Zayed National Museum, which is due to open in several years, and the Guggenheim Abu Dhabi, which is also at the upper right hand. But the culture of museums didn't start in the UAE with the Louvre Abu Dhabi or with this project. It has been a long time before. I pronounce the name of Sheikh Zayed. Sheikh Zayed is the founder of the UAE. Is the man who made the federation and who made the independence of the country, and the country was born in 71. So there will be one museum dedicated to his legacy, but he was also the man, before the country was created, when they were discussing about priority of investment, a road, an hospital, on how to transform oil into a sustainable and lasting industry investment. He was a man who decided to create in Al Ain a museum to save the heritage of this oasis and of this people. So the idea that the past and the heritage is very important is not recent in the UAE. It's really a continuous effort. You mentioned, Souania, that it was an agreement between France and Abu Dhabi. And indeed, and this is something also to understand maybe the magnitude of it, the seminal text, the intergovernmental agreement, is a treaty, which means it has a diplomatic, very strong commitment from both parties. And it was signed 6 March 2007. We recognize the two ministers, Hisa Inès Cher Sultan and Renaud Denis de Vabre, signing it on behalf of the two countries and sealing a friendship and a common project. The name of the Louvre within Louvre Abu Dhabi was granted for 30 years and 6 months. We were discussing at lunch. I don't know why 6 months. I guess it must be an adjustment or a period. But anyway, a little more than 30 years. And what's important in this period of time is that it is roughly one generation. The idea was to have enough time to be able to work and to root the Louvre Abu Dhabi in its environment. The text is quite complex. You have plenty of things, but to sum it up, very important part of it is the loan of artworks from French museums. You mentioned we are working with 17 French institutions, but we have loaned from 13. The difference comes from École du Louvre or other bodies which are not owning collections. But these loans, it means that beyond the name of the Louvre, we are tapping into huge richness of French collection, not French owned, not French art. And we also have temporary exhibitions for 15 years. So you can see it starting with the opening. And something which is also very important, a specific body was created in the treaty to simplify the access to the French museum system. I'm coming for it, but a common point was also, let's say, one of the key success factors to be able to get to what was key, what was important, and to organize the transfer of expertise. Maybe the definition also was in this text, and universal, we try to reinvent the universal museum. As I told you, I shared with you the history of the notion of universal museum, but what does it mean in the 21st century? What does it mean in Abu Dhabi? And again, the answer comes with the name. From the Louvre, we have this connection to the encyclopedic approach, to the knowledge, to the classification, to the understanding, and to the let's say, not exhaustivity, but temptation of exhaustivity of all form of human genius. From Abu Dhabi, we have a place which has always been connected, which is bold, which is in the core of the Middle East, in the core of the Arab world, and which is this connection, this hub of the world. So when we put the Louvre and Abu Dhabi together, we've got this universal story of art, showing the communalities of men, and throughout all period of time and with artwork from all civilization. So this is our motto. This is how we organize our work. I was speaking about the 13 French museums. I'm sure you know the main museum of Paris. The Louvre is the most important of Paris, maybe and certainly of the world. Jean-Luc Martinez would not refuse that. But as you may know, the Louvre itself in Paris, because of the richness of the collection, is in a way stopping in time. And if you want to go after the last period of time of the Louvre, you need to go to Musée d'Orsay. The Impressionists are in Musée d'Orsay. So in a way, the room after the Louvre is Musée d'Orsay. And similarly, the room after Orsay would be Centre Pompidou. And I was saying we are a universal museum, which means that all the world has to be there. As you may know, also the Asian art, for instance, are in Musée Guimet and in Musée du Quai Branly with Africa, with Oceania, and with the Americas. So if you want to have if you want to invite the full world to a new museum, you need to access to all of this collection, which is what we have. We add to that Musée Rodin, Versailles, Bibliothèque Nationale de France. So we have this access to all this incredible collection, Versailles, Sèvres, I'm always forgetting one, Fontainebleau, Art Décoratif, so small and big, so but 13 have been gathered in this project. And 10 years. 10 years from the inception to the opening. So, and I think this is something we share with you. It's okay. It's normal. It's normal. Colleague, I'm talking to my colleagues, to the future audience of this museum, and to people who will participate to M+. And I know from the inside or from the outside, you have this, you want it, you desire to see it. But the maturation of such important project is also very important. We are building these museums of the 21st century and the relevance of the collection of the content. And I would say also the construction of the collection, the construction of the building in itself, and the capacity to protect the treasure that will be put in it, and the capacity to prepare the audience is very important. So these 10 years, and I would say it's really, it was necessary. It started, one of the very important steps, and I think we share that also, is the acquisition and the creation of the collection. I told you that we had all these loans from the French museums, but we also, in parallel, and this was also part of the access to expertise, we also have artworks from our own collection. So we started with, you can see the Mondrian, who was owned by Pierre Berger and Yves Saint Laurent. So it was our first, the starting of the process of acquiring a collection, universal collection. So this painting is beautiful, and it's also in a way a parallel. You've seen the geometrical forms the Louvre Abu Dhabi, and maybe there is a connection unknown connection between Mondrian and the inspiration of Jean Nouvel. We also had for some years a mock-up of the dome. I will present the dome later on, but it was very important also to make the project exist, to have something to see, something to tackle. We launched programs also to prepare the audience, and talking series. What you're doing, what doing here is also very important in order to be a place before the museum is born. What happened, and how do you think the museum? How do you think the collections? We had 2 wonderful exhibitions, pre-opening exhibition. One in Abu Dhabi, one in Paris, which was in the Louvre, which was also a way of presenting our collection and to explain what the Louvre Abu Dhabi was about. You can see March 2015, the installation of the last piece of the dome cladding, very moving moment. Architect and designer, when you finish, when you close one part of the puzzle, there is always a big step. The Louvre named a pavilion after Sheikh Zayed, which was also a very important step in the friendship between Abu Dhabi and Paris. The site was flooded. You will see in the other picture. We are surrounded by water on 4 sides, which is very easy. And we, during summer of 2017, we had the visit of the Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi and the Vice President of the UAE, the ruler of Dubai. They visited together, and then it was sure we were going to open very soon. They loved it, and a few months after, we were officially opening and receiving the public. I will, few images. You can see the dome being built on the background. It's a superstructure. For a while, it was like a bamboo forest underneath. Construction of the infrastructure on which the cladding will be put. The supersized element. All this on reclaimed land. Installation of the stars, that will be the dome. Hang from the top from underneath. We kept the symbol for our badge. There was this moment they lifted it. From the relief of the engineer, I understand it was a big step. Afterwards, voila. So dome was completed. Water coming back, block by block. Et voilà. So a few years of our lives in 30 seconds, but I think this is very important to understand the magnitude and the complexity of the building and the way it was built and the interaction and so on. So when I'm talking about the necessary time, it's also because you need to make sure the thing in the right order. So this was the opening. You have here the most important person who were there for the opening. On the far right, the Crown Prince Highness Shah Mohammed. In the middle, my chairman, Mohamed Al Mubarak, who is leading the authority of culture and tourism. Louvre Abu Dhabi is within the authority of culture and tourism of Abu Dhabi, and Mohamed is my boss. So he has all the cultural project and all the touristic project to continue to develop Abu Dhabi as a destination. The French president, of course, Emmanuel Macron, and on his left, the president of the Louvre, Jean-Luc Martinez. So we had this political opening. We offered also to our visitors a show, and it was very important for us to celebrate in a way which was also giving life to the artwork. So with Group F, we projected the artworks on the walls of the Louvre Abu Dhabi while the fireworks was given. So that was impressive. The result of the opening was quite celebrated. I think we have been one of the event of 2017. we don't bask in the glory of that, because even if it's impressive, this is when everything starts with the public, with the reality of the public. I will now maybe, in a more analytical way, explain to you what is Louvre Abu Dhabi, and I will try to use 4 pillars to sum up what we are. The first pillar is the architecture, and this is maybe the first artwork of the collection, maybe the first. You see here the sketch of Jean Nouvel, French architect, Pritzker Prize, who dreamt this museum. Jean Nouvel is a genius. He's really a visionnaire, and he really invented something incredible. He calls himself a contextualized architect, which means he always tries to understand where the museums and where his masterpieces are. And he also has a very long relationship with the Arab world, because you may know he was the architect of the Institut du Monde Arabe 21 years ago in 87 in Paris, like this incredible building playing with the Moucharabieh. He also has a very strong relationship with light, with natural light, with filtering light, letting it go, and so on. You can see that in Fondation Cartier, you can see that in Musée du Quai Branly, always this kind of play on light. And he loves the museum, and this quote on the magnetism of the artwork is very important, because he was pleased by the universal mission of the museum. So his inspiration, Arabian architecture and Islamic architecture, the light that you can get in the souk or in the oasis, and the Medina, which is an Arab word meaning the city. So when you mix all of this, and you decide to be on the sea, 4 sides on the sea, which is quite a challenge. Museums are a place in which you need to have no water and the control of hygrometry and control of the temperature. So doing this museum was also a technical challenge. But if we go back to the dream of Jean Nouvel, so we can see here from the sea these blocks, which are at the same time geometrically perfect, and always with a little variation or little vibration. It's a city, it's a fort. You can, not us now, but you could, as a visitor, get lost in the little streets. You have this kind of perspective. The rooms, the usual rooms in a museum are little houses connected. It's a museum which works fantastically by day, but also very impressive by night, because you have this translucid approach through the dome. It's and the dome. So the dome that you've seen being created is also I would say one of the key features of Louvre Abu Dhabi. This effect that you see here is a real one. It's not Photoshop. It's a real perception that you can have at some points. The rain of light effect, which is this materiality of the rays of the sun, depending on the dust, depending on the sand that you have, or on the sometimes the fog that we got in winter, and the way the rays of the sun hit this is exactly like in a hall in a theater when a projector is hitting the dust of the and this gives a spectacular feeling. So it's a very sensorial approach to be under the dome. You see, so the effect will be these rays that you have on all the buildings, these dots that would move every moment, and when you see, it's touching you, and you can walk inside. We also are a museum of objects, a museum of fine arts, and we have objects within the galleries, well protected, but we also, and this was part of the challenge, commissioned contemporary artists to work with us, and we invited them to come and to create for the Louvre Abu Dhabi. You can see, maybe we'll just go back. Here you see Pennone, the Italian artist Giuseppe, who Giuseppe made 3 artworks for us. This incredible bronze tree, which is almost going up to the dome, as you can see. And working with Sèvres, ceramic of Sèvres, he made 2 artworks. One is, you can see this guy in a traditional dress who is looking at Giuseppe Pennone. It's called Propagation, and it's actually the sum of Sherzayed, which has been put in the work that Pennone is doing now, playing with. So you have a succession of ripples. So it's also for us a way to pay tribute to Sherzayed, Louvre Abu Dhabi being one of the many repercussions of the vision of this man who wanted to promote education and culture. We also worked with an American artist called Jenny Holzer, and Jenny has both Giuseppe and Jenny had let's say a very good level of discussion with Jean Nouvel, and they were discussing on the best way to interact with the building. So the tree of Pennone and this engraved wall by Jenny Holzer are also some of the key elements of the identity of the Louvre Abu Dhabi now. So Jenny was invited by us to create 3 walls. So she engraved in it texts, which are, I don't know if we have the 3 of them. No, we have another. So one cuneiform wall with, which is also text about translation. So you have 2 types of cuneiform writing coming from the Pergamon Museum and the translation, and this story of the creation of man. We have fantastic text by Indra Aldum on tolerance, on exchange, in which you can see the writing and the correction by Indra Aldum himself. And we have a text by Michel de Montaigne, a print of the essay with his annotation and so on. So materiality of the text, tolerance, all the message of the Louvre Abu Dhabi, and they are, we will see in the second pillar, they are consistent with the time frame of the artwork of the wall. They are ornamenting. We also have not artists who are not alive anymore, sadly, Rodin. This incredible Rodin working man on a column is part of the collection of Louvre Abu Dhabi, and is also one of the pillars of the. And we have this fontaine, octagonal fontaine that we have installed in one of these. We played a little bit because it was more in a palace than in a public space, but you have also this connection to water, this connection to geometry, which is very strong in the Arab world. And to talk boutique a little bit, in terms of program, the Jean Nouvel offered us a fantastic museum with you see in red 6,000 square meter of permanent galleries. I will come back to what's in it. In orange, 2,000 square meter of temporary exhibition hall. So this is where we have rotating exhibition. In orange, the small, we have a children museum, and we're very proud of that also. It's a children museum with real artworks, not a play museum. In purple on both sides you have F&B, food and beverage venues. The yellow part is all the sequence for the visitors to be controlled, oriented, ticketed. All the treatment is there. The staff is on the blue on the right side, and very important for a museum, the dark blue is the conservation building. So we have first-class conservation building, so we can intervene on an artwork. We can do a restoration. We also can have workshop. We can prepare. It's very important for a museum. Everything you don't see, but which are part of the efficiency of the museum's capacity to prepare another exhibition while you are de-hanging another one. So we have this incredible space. That would be it. So the first pillar is definitely the building, and this is something which is very important for us, and I hope we managed. We wanted to make sure that the the architecture of the building was not taking over the content and the meaning of the museum. We wanted to find a right balance between the spectacular of the building, but also the content and the raison d'être of the museum. So we are presenting, so in the permanent galleries, this 6,000 square meter, we are going to our DNA, which is telling this story of the world. It's the story of humanity, story of creativity. We tell this story with artworks, with a limited number of artworks, because we are displaying in these galleries 600 artworks, but you can really see them magnificent in a museographic display, which has also been done by Jean Nouvel. And I think in this case, he was absolutely fantastic in the way that there is no rupture between the spectacular effect of the building and the way the artworks are exhibited. This is the first room, which is, as you know, always in an exhibition, the first room is a manifesto. It's where you explain the trick of the exhibition or the show. And in this one, we are showing. So I will just go back. So on the floor, you have the map of the UAE, shore of the UAE. We just dropped on them a little, in a way of playing orientation and disorientation. We put the names of origin of the collection. So it's like localization and at the same time invitation to travel. We have these showcases that you can see, which are very specific, playing with the shard of light, and you can see that we have an access to the dome that you can see. And in the showcases, we are starting by questions, and we are questioning the commonalities of man, and so trying to see without too much detail, a little like the exhibition, like the cartel is not too obvious. We just invite people to question, and we tackled some very important universal concepts. So this one is a representation of maternity. So it can be in the Christian, in Isis lactans, or on African. And so we will have this three figures of praying, three figures of writing. So just questions, and this is a place. Yes, orientation, disorientation. Then you start the visit, and. If it were not too trivial, I would say it's like a time machine. But in a way, when you walk through the galleries, you discover artworks from epoch, etymologically epoch, so from moment of time, which have a consistency. Of course, we are accelerating the time at the end of the parcours, but we start with the first Neolithic creation and the first universal discovery, which was this, the Flintstone. And so I don't think we have it in this slide, but the creation of the first villages, the first creation, the moment Sapiens stops to be just a surviving animal, and when he starts to create and to question beauty. So in this room, you would have pottery. We have these fantastic loans from our friends in Jordan. So this is, we have artworks from the French Museum, artworks from the collection of Louvre Abu Dhabi, plus some very specific relationship with the regional museum, like in the Middle East. Like we worked with Jordan Museum to get this Al Ghazine fantastic sculpture on loan. We worked with Saudi Kingdom of Saudi. We worked with Oman. We worked with also our colleagues in the UAE, Al-Ain Museum I was mentioning, but our colleagues in Sharjah, in Dubai, Ras Al Khaimah lent us a fantastic piece. So we really are innerving the full system of the UAE and the Arab world. So we start by these statues. Sorry, I'm going the wrong way. And we are moving. So after the first villages, we're moving to this room, which is dedicated to the first kingdom, to the first power. So you can see, and here you have a good representation of the lawns. Gudea, a fantastic lawn from the Louvre Oriental Department, and Ramses II. We don't see it, but on the left there is Tutankhamun Stela, which is Louvre Abu Dhabi collection. This Marmes is a Gallic armor. On the right, the axe is one of the oldest axes we found in the UAE at the Bronze Age. So it's also a way of repeating that the UAE were part of the world history. So we tell the story of the world, but we also know where we are, and each time we could, we really anchored the museum in his region. Some fantastic Guy. So this is on loan from Lingui, from Musée Guimet. So this is access to collections through the Guimet Museum. Bronze Age again. Then we're moving, after the kingdom, we're moving to the empire. And we will have the Persian Empire, the Greek Empire. This is a fantastic dragon that which is the Louvre Abu Dhabi collection, a Chinese dragon from the Warring States. So just before the unification of China as an empire. So this is one of the most important object that we have of your culture, and it's really we're very proud of this thing. We have this obvious commonalities again. On the left, you have a Roman Togatus, and on the right, a Bodhisattva from the Pakistan, and both of them have in common Alexander the Great and some exchanges and transmission of form. So it can be obvious or it can be more subtle, but we see the commonality, the echo, the point of. And again, it's a aspirational museum. So we are trying to say what we share and how we are, what we have in common. I will go, and so the rupture. It's like chapter. So the rupture. So wing 1, which is what we just finished, and we needed to encourage our moment of movement between in the story we tell. So it's a narrative-based museum. So here we stopped with the universal religion. We finished with these big empires. The full world is under empires, and appears everywhere in the world universal religions. And we didn't focus only on the monotheism, but all the universal religion and so on. And this is very important for Abu Dhabi in the art of the Middle East to be able to show this incredible room of religion put in respect all together. You can see, and here we have a Christian monastery. So you had some Christian people in the UAE found. This is one of the objects of DCT. We have Shiva, dancing Shiva. Do we have and this room is the most striking one. It's a room of the books. So we have a Torah, a Bible, and the Quran, and some sutra. I say some because we are rotating, because it's paper and it's fragile. The fun is we don't disagree. So we are changing every 3-4 months, but these sacred texts coming from all over the world are put together in respect. You can have access. We have also digital ways of discovering, and we offer that to the public. Same thing, Indian Buddha, Chinese Buddha, just also to see how the traveling of forms. This is the last one of the last acquisitions that we just installed in November. This incredible Guanyin. This is striking human size in the room of the Road of Exchange and Road of Faith. I will maybe accelerate and just tempt you to come to Louvre Abu Dhabi. So this very long room is dedicated to the trade route. So we start in Asia, in China, and we go up to Europe and trying to see, and with the Islamic world in the middle, and I oversimplify, but just to understand how transfer of techniques, transfer of material, transfer of pattern have create commonalities in the creation, and we have always been influenced and so on. So you could see that. This is a fantastic Tang loans from Guimet again. I will go quickly so you can see. We arrive to the Islamic world. So this is Manzon Lion. It was when the Louvre opened its Islamic wing. This lion on the left was everywhere in the world. This was really the face of the Islamic wing. And we got it on loan for 2 years. We are very proud. It's one of the fantastic. We have another, talking about lion, we have another lion. So this one is Louvre Abu Dhabi collection, fantastic. We had our friend, this lion is also one of the key elements in our bestiary of Louvre Abu Dhabi. We move up to this room, which is 1500s. 1500s is the moment the world is completely connected, not completely cartographed. The maps are not accurate, so we have a room full of inaccurate maps, but these are all the representation of the world, and you can see all the exchange and the America being connected. Now the real, it's a new universal phenomenon. The incredible Leonardo on loan from the Louvre, la belle ferronnière, the most beautiful lady of her time, with us for 2 years. Again, we have many pottery, and we also have a fine display in order to be to discover that. This room, we're getting to the 18th century, so the Canova, Napoleon. The 5 players, so this is a temptation because he came back to Musée d'Orsay. We had it for 1 year, no more, but this is the face of Musée d'Orsay, this incredible Manet. We got this Monet. Now this is installed in place on the modernity of the portrait. She's not looking at us, so this is all the modernity of Monet in one painting. I was talking about Émile Bernard, the guy who received the letter by Cézanne. We have this woman smoking, also new hanging, Matisse. So we're going to the present time, the Mondrian Institute, Ai Weiwei, and some voilà. So this is for the collection. So we go through time. Sorry, I was a little quick, but you have to come to Louvre Abu Dhabi to be able to discover everything. So this is the narrative, the historical narrative with rotation, with evolution. I showed you one of the artworks which is not anymore in it. So it changes all the time. Because of the acquisition and because of the French loans or the other loans moving. We also have exhibitions, so I will try to catch up the time. Exhibitions are very important also for the public coming back and also to go deeper, because as I said, we have a limited number of artworks, so in order to tell the story of the world, but giving ourselves the capacity to go deeper on some of the subjects, we use this space. So the first one was from one Louvre to another, a manifesto exhibition, a parallel, mise en abîme from the Louvre Abu Dhabi, from the Louvre in Paris opening to the Louvre in Abu Dhabi. We had globes, again an echo of the cartography room, collab, Japanese connection, Nabi exhibition right now. Currently, we have this incredible exhibition, Roads of Arabia, from Saudi. So it's archaeological treasures, pre-Islamic and post-Islamic. Fantastic. And we will have, in February, an exhibition on Rembrandt, Vermeer, and the Dutch Golden Age, masterpieces of the Leiden collection, Musée du Louvre. We will finish the season by an exhibition on photography, another very important universal phenomenon, which is photography and its distribution in the world. So not only as a Western invention or new technique, but the way it was used everywhere in the world. So this exhibition is also going to be great. We have a children museum with real artworks, high-tech, low-tech ways of catching the attention of the young one, but also giving the keys to the educators, to the families, and in a place which doesn't have this big universal museum, enabling the families and the educator is key for us. We don't want to slap people in the face and tell them they don't know the museum yet. We want to give them the capacity to transmit. So this is very important, and I think it works well. We also have a new place that it doesn't have a name yet. We call it the Manga Lab. We'll see what's the next step, but to play more with teens and how we can interact. So this is a side of the Japanese Connection exhibition. So playing. You can see the lady is in a virtual reality, so she's diving into Hiroshige print. So so she really can understand the paint, the print itself. But we also have arcade games, old school arcade games to trigger the desire. We also have performances and shows. So we have artworks from all over the world, so same things with the shows and the performances. I will just, all of them are gone, but this was for Roads of Arabia playing, this was for the opening itself, in which we invited talks, and this is also very important. I'm going to go very quickly on the two last pillars, because it's very important for us. So architecture, content, but the third pillar, and I think you are well equipped, is the team, the staff. And in our case, I'm very proud of the diversity of the team. I love to say we have a team from A to Z, from Australia to Zimbabwe. We have people from all over the place. And this is also the richness of Abu Dhabi, to have this exposure to the world diversity and this capacity to welcome people from all over. We also, and this is very key, have a priority policy, and it's part of the core of the museum, to create a new generation of Emirati professionals. And this is very important. This is also what this museum stands for, and this is maybe why 30 years and 6 months have been attributed to create this specialist. So it's not the same cycle when you are working with the curators to create a curator from the university up to the museum, or if you take someone who does communication or marketing or security, and you just adapt this work into museum specific. So we're doing that very strongly. Half of the staff is Emirati, and this is also something very important in the sustainability of the museum. And these young people, or not all young, but they also have access to the French museum system and to the museum of the world. You see the ambassador program is also a way of reaching out to our... And I will finish by the last pillars, which is the public. You're not a museum open until you have public, and this is what happened to us the 11th of November last year. And since then, we had more than 1 million visitors, which is a lot for us, a lot in the museum world, and very important in Abu Dhabi. We are very proud also of the 60-40 ratio. 60% of the visitors are tourists from all over the world. It's very important because it means that we are participating to the attractivity of Abu Dhabi as a destination, but 40% are also UAE resident, which also... So this balance is key for us. It means we are also in a territory, and we exist there. Relatively young, 38-year-old, and we are discussing. And I'm very proud of the number of school trips, because this is our education. China is the Chinese. So India and China as in their big civilization blocks, because are also very important in terms of visitor to the UAE, but it is represented in the Louvre Abu Dhabi. We have plenty some images. You can see that we are used by some of your colleagues who come. We affordable price of the ticket. That's why we are trying to be universality means that people can afford to come. Universality means that people of determination can also understand the content. So we worked a lot with trying to tackle all the disabilities and to do the extra steps toward people. So you see here a blind man touching the Buddha head or representation and understanding. It's also with the loyalty and art club program and the multimedia, the accessibility is with the language. So we have only 7 languages in the multimedia guide today. We need to expand 7, huh? We're counting because Russian has been added. So we're trying to cope with the problem, and that will be it. Education and of course food and beverage, and we still innovate. We had this incredible campaign on the road between Dubai and Abu Dhabi. We were inviting the visitors to. You would tune on the radio and you would get the curatorial description of the artworks while seeing it. Nobody had an accident, and it was a big hit. It's also, in a nutshell, Louvre Abu Dhabi is a bold institution. We still are innovative. We want to keep on innovating. We are young, and so we can afford to do that. But because of our name, because the names of Louvre, because the name of Abu Dhabi, we want to be always at the world-class standards of museum, and it doesn't frighten us, but this is a responsibility. So again, thank you very much for this opportunity, and I hope you will visit.